What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video on the channel. So a few months back in like July of last year, I made a tier list going over which NFL teams I thought were going to make either a playoff run or just basically talking about which teams were going to do well, which teams were going to do bad, and everything in between. So obviously, with how the seasons have gone, I think it was a pretty crazy season. So a lot of my tiers are kind of head scratchers, but I wanted to go over them because I think it's pretty funny to see like just how off I was on my predictions of the 2025 to 2026 NFL season was gonna go because my shit is all over the place. There were some that I was dead on with, and there were others that I just completely and utterly missed on. And then we're gonna have a little bit of extra shit at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. So we're gonna go ahead and switch it to my recording here. So my webcam's kind of in the way here. Anyway, here is my list. So you can already see that I made back in you can already see that there's some bad picks. I made this back in, like I said, mid-July, so about 2 seasons before, or 2 months before the season had actually started. And I think before they were even making like crazy changes in the off season. So I guess we'll go from the top down. My Super Bowl favorites is kind of crazy because the Chiefs and the Lions both missed the playoffs. But can you honestly blame me for expecting the Chiefs to do very well with Patrick Mahomes? Unfortunately for them, though, and Chiefs fans, that was not the case. They obviously missed the playoffs. And even with Patrick Mahomes not getting injured, I don't think that would have changed based on just how poor their season was. I also had the Lions as a Super Bowl favorite. Also, can you blame me for that? They kept most of their players, but unfortunately, injuries just completely tore their season apart, and they weren't able to make the playoffs. Unfortunately, and the Eagles, I had a Super Bowl favorite. And, they were the reigning Super Bowl champions this season. They're still a playoff team, obviously. They won their division, but I don't see them making it very far. Matter of fact, I don't even see them making it past the first round, which would be against the Rams. I don't see them being the Rams. We're gonna have Super Bowl contenders, the Ravens, because I thought Lamar Jackson was gonna be healthy for most of the season. Unfortunately, he missed like almost half the season due to injuries. He had like a hamstring injury and something else, and like a back injury. So, fortunately, Lamar Jackson was not able to play a whole lot of snaps this year, and they missed the playoffs. Last week, at the final week of the season, there was a game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Ravens, and the Ravens kicker missed the field goal that would have sent them in the playoffs, and the Pittsburgh Steelers took the spot for the AFC North, which was a very weak division this year. The Commanders, man, this was another one I was really off on with the Super Bowl contenders. I thought that Jaden Daniels and that team was going to win might have won the NFC, was the East. I thought that maybe they could win the NFC East with Jaden Daniels coming back from one of the best rookie seasons, if not the best rookie season we've ever seen from a quarterback, and almost being the youngest player to be sent into the Super Bowl, but unfortunately lost in the conference championship to the Eagles. So I thought maybe, just maybe, that the Commanders were gonna pull it together this season too, and maybe even make it their way to the Super Bowl. Was not the case. Was not the case. Jaden Daniels got injured for most of the season, and even with him, I don't think the team, even with him leading the offense, they still didn't do very good. I feel like their defense was really, really weak this year, and man, even with Jaden Daniels healthy the whole time, they might have got a wild card spot, but I don't know. This one I think I'm correct with. The Bills being a Super Bowl contender. Every time Josh Allen is in the postseason, there's always a chance for the Bills to have a shot at the playoffs or at the Super Bowl. So I wouldn't be surprised if Josh Allen finally puts it together with not having to face Patrick Mahomes this year. I think he finally he might have what it takes to bring his team to the Super Bowl. I'll get more into that later, but yeah, I think this is a pretty fair assessment right here. Playoff teams, I had Tampa Bay because I thought Baker Mayfield and his offense coming off a pretty good season last season, from what I remember, I thought he was going to be able to really put the team together, and he actually was in the early half of the season, and then the later half, I'm pretty sure they out of six out of their out of 7 games they've lost 6 of them at the end of this year, at the end of the season, and that's just if they had won a few more of those games, they would have easily been able to win the NFC South, but because I don't know if it was because of the shoulder injury or what, the team just completely collapsed on itself, lost all its momentum, and just lost like all their games. Minnesota Vikings, I thought maybe JJ McCarthy. I guess I shouldn't have had so much confidence in the Minnesota Vikings because Sam Darnold. I think it was before Sam Darnold left to the Seahawks. So, but I thought maybe even with JJ McCarthy, they would be a playoff team, maybe getting a wild card spot, maybe even winning the division. But JJ McCarthy wasn't really that good, and because of that, the team just kind of collapsed, finished bottom of the division. Kind of crazy. The Bengals, I don't think this was a crazy pick at the point I made this tier list because I was expecting Joe Burrow to come back this season and just go absolutely crazy. But unfortunately, Joe Burrow, he had that injury with his turf toe and stuff, missed like a significant portion of the season. And even when he came back, I feel like he just didn't have it in him to really want to compete at such a high level as he was last season. And, the Bengals finished like either the bottom of the AFC North or the second to last, but obviously they missed the playoffs. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams up in this tier that aren't even in the playoffs. And then Indianapolis Colts early this season, they would have been up here or up here, but then wasn't Daniel Jones got injured. I think it was Achilles or something. Fucked up his Achilles, or no, it was he got his Achilles hurt, but he was already dealing with injury with his leg. He had like fractures or something in it, like stress fractures or something that were bothering him. But the Indianapolis Colts kind of just fell apart. Philip Rivers tried to step in, maybe revive the season. Wasn't able to do it. Fortunately, they weren't able to get a wild card spot, and the Jaguars took advantage of that, ended up winning the AFC North, or no, it's not the AFC North, the AFC South, and yeah. Texans, I was actually spot on with this one because they actually did get a wild card spot. They have the highest wild card spot with the 5th seed, so I guess that might be able to put them in the playoff teams tier. But I was completely correct on this one. Texans ended up getting a wild card, and honestly, for me personally, with how good their defense is playing and the momentum they have coming into the postseason, because they have a shit ton of momentum. They've won a lot of tough games at the end of their schedule. I'm honestly rooting for them to make it to the Super Bowl. The way their defense has been playing has been absolutely insane. CJ Stroud seems to be putting it together. He still is prone to make mistakes, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if I see the Houston Texans make their first Super Bowl. It'll be amazing to watch because, like I just said, they've never made a Super Bowl, so I would like to see them at least make it. San Francisco 49ers, once again, dead on. But this one could have been weird because they could have beat the Seahawks and got the 1 seed in the NFC West, which was the best division this year. But unfortunately, they fell short and got the 5th seed, just like the Texans, in the wild card. So this was pretty much dead on. But like I said, both these teams could have been here. And with the Texans, it could be like right here or even here for me. Green Bay Packers, once again, spot on for them. They barely made the playoffs, securing a 7th seed and finishing 2nd in the NFC North. They had a lot of potential coming out of the season, especially after they got Micah Parsons, but they lost a lot of bad games, like the Browns. They lost the Panthers. They lost some pretty trash games, man. I feel like they finished good in their division, but overall, they didn't play that well, and fortunately, I don't really see them making it very far. I mean, it's my team, but I like to be optimistic. But with the amount of injuries they've gotten, and like with Tucker Kraft, who was really one of the best tight ends in the NFL when he got injured, Micah Parsons, one of the best players on the team, and definitely the best player on the defense. The defense has hurt so bad with Micah Parsons. I didn't think it would be that huge of a deal since they have all the other players from last season, but it just is a void that could not be filled, and unfortunately, he's going to be missing most of next season too, which is gonna really suck. But yeah, the Packers being a potential wild card, spot on. Teams that have missing the playoffs. 3 of these teams made it. The Chargers, Seahawks, and Steelers. Obviously, Seahawks is the worst one because they literally got the number 1 seed in the NFC and winning the NFC West. But they could have potentially dropped if the LA won all their games and the San Francisco 49ers beat them in the last game of the season, they would have been the 6th seed. So it wouldn't have been too far off. But the NFC West was just absolutely crazy this year, and 3 of the teams made it. Seahawks won it. They got the 1 seed. So that was way off on that one. Chargers obviously made it. They got the bottom seed of the AFC, just sneaking in with the wild card. Yeah, I don't think saying they were going to miss the playoffs coming in the season was a far stretch because I figured that the Chiefs were going to have a lot of better season with Patrick Mahomes, which they didn't. So not really a crazy statement there. This one, I mean, the only thing that is wrong about the Saints being here is that they should be fucking lower. They should be in number 1 pick contention because of how terrible they played. I thought maybe they'd have a chance to, because I feel like they have some good players, but they just really fell apart this season. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they barely snuck in. That it took the final game of the season against the Ravens that they barely won on the skin of their teeth because the field goal, the 40-yard field goal attempt was missed by the Ravens kicker. So, I don't think that's a miss either, to be honest, because they could have easily missed the playoffs this season. The Baltimore Ravens kicker, I forgot his name, had missed their fucking kick. New York Jets, yeah. The only thing about them is they should be lower. Same with the Browns. I think this is my best. Actually, this might be my worst tier, honestly. Cardinals, Browns, Jets. Obviously, they suck this year. They suck like every fucking year. Falcons, I think this is a perfect tier for them. Same with Raiders can be a number 1 pick contention. But I had mediocre at best. LA, Rams, and the Denver Broncos, which is crazy because the Broncos have literally the best record in football right now. I really didn't think Bo Nix was going to be that crazy this year, and I thought he was going to be like average, mediocre at best, like the team, like I expected the team to be. But I was not accounting for was the fact that the Broncos defense was going to be so freaking good. And to be honest, they had a lot of games that were like single score affairs and like around like 3 points. Like a lot of them were like less than 7 points. It was absolutely crazy. They had a lot of close games that could have easily caused them to lose. It's kind of like the Chiefs last season with the Broncos this year. So maybe they'll make it to the Super Bowl. We'll see. And the Rams, I don't really know what my thought process was there for the Rams not making the playoffs and being mediocre, because Matthew Stafford's been having a MVP season this season. I honestly expect him to win the MVP this year. Though, to be honest, the quarterback play this year has been not very good. To be honest, there's been like no good, like great quarterbacks this year. So, but I'm rooting for Matthew Stafford. I think he should be the MVP this year, even though he had a really bad game against whoever they were playing a few weeks ago. And the Raiders being mediocre best, that's pretty accurate, but they could be a lower tier, to be honest. Titans can be down here. Dolphins can. I feel like the only thing that I missed on was the Panthers, but the Panthers, like I said, got very lucky with the Falcons. Not only having the Buccaneers collapse halfway through the season, but also having the Falcons win against whoever they were playing that made them eventually get into the playoffs. So the Panthers being here, honestly, isn't terrible, but they would be like right here, honestly. But I would have never expected the fucking Panthers of all teams to be a potential wild card, especially coming off this last season. Here's when it gets a bit spicy. I had number 1 pick contentions, 3 of them. This one's fucking accurate. The Giants being a number 1 pick contention, perfect. They might actually get the first round pick or the number 1 pick. I don't know who's getting the number 1 pick yet. I haven't really looked. It might be the Titans actually, but I have the fucking Patriots, Bears, and fucking the Jaguars, all of which are their respective division leaders this season, which is absolutely crazy. Like, this is literally my worst tier. Patriots coming off a fantastic season. They won the AFC East pretty handedly. Drake May having an MVP-esque season this year, and yeah, honestly, I can see him win MVP too. He might not be my favorite player that I think is going to make the MVP, but I think he could definitely win it. And then we have the Chicago Bears, who ended up winning the NFC North. It could have been the Packers, but it was really between the Bears and the Packers. And it's honestly kind of exciting to see that the Bears are actually good now. After having a lot of seasons where they missed the playoffs and stuff, finishing last in their division in the NFC North this year, which is one of the major factors as to why I thought that they were not going to do very well this season. But Caleb Williams, he pulled it together, man. And because of that, even though he's not having like a crazy season as a quarterback, he's doing enough to make his team win the NFC North. But to be fair, or to be honest, I don't think they're going to make it very far in the playoffs, even if they have the number 2 seed, because they've lost to a lot of bad teams. They just lost to the Lions, who couldn't even put it together with their season on the line against the Vikings, who are literally bottom of the division. So with their like second string quarterback, who's like pretty bad. The Giants is really accurate. Don't really need to go much further. They just had a terrible season. And the Jaguars, with the Jaguars, it's crazy because Trevor Lawrence, I don't think he's a good quarterback. It's a miracle that they won, what was it, 12 or 13 games because of how many mistakes their offense had. And they had some pretty crucial injuries. So it's honestly a miracle that the Jaguars are like Super Bowl contenders or even playoff teams, like securing the 3rd seed in the AFC and winning the AFC South, which was pretty competitive until the end of the season when the fucking Colts fell apart. But we'll see how they do next season. But I honestly don't see them making far, but I could see it going either way. But I feel like when they go against a real good defense, like the Texans or the Broncos, they're gonna fall apart. That's what I think. But anyway, guys, this was the tier list that I made early, like before the season even started, and what I thought the teams were gonna lay at. Some of them were hits, a lot of misses, especially in the bottom tier, and the top tiers. Like obviously, like of the was it 4, 7, 10, 13 teams I had going into the playoffs, which is there's 14 slots. Out of the 13 teams I had going into the playoffs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Every team in the playoff team tier didn't make it, which is kind of funny. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 teams out of the 13 I had going didn't even make the playoffs. The best tier I had was this one, which was the potential wild cards, because all 3 of these teams right here are wild cards. And then obviously this one's terrible because these 3 teams won their divisions. But anyway, I have one more thing I want to talk about, guys. So after the season had ended and I saw where all the seedings were going to be, I made a playoff bracket to where I think each team is going to go at the throughout the entirety of the playoffs. And I'll go ahead and show that real quick. Here is my little playoff bracket that I made after the season had ended. I actually had made it a week before the final season, or the last week of the season, just to see if I could get everything right. I was wrong. Mainly in the AFC, I was completely right. But this was like I said, bear in mind, this was like 2 weeks ago, not like at the beginning of the season. NFC, though, I was kind of off on a lot of things. But anyway, this is my playoff bracket. I'll start from the NFC side. So obviously, I don't expect the Panthers to beat the 49ers, like at all. Like it's a miracle that the Panthers even made it in, and NFC South is like the worst division in the fucking NFL right now. And the Panthers are literally have a losing record. They're 8-9. Though they have snuck in wins against good teams. The Packers are kind of mediocre to be honest, but they beat the Rams. Maybe they could sneak in a win against the 49ers, but I doubt it. But yeah, the 49ers moving on. I have the Rams beating the Eagles. If the Eagles can't even beat the Commanders at the final game of the season to secure a second seed, then I don't see them being any team from the NFC West, which is the best division in football this season. So I think they're just going to get one and done. Their team, even though they had pretty much everyone from last season coming back, they kind of just fell apart. They still were not the same team that they were last season. Could they go on a tear and just lock in during the playoffs? It could happen because, like I said, they don't really have very many injuries, and they have the same team that they had when they won the Super Bowl last season. So maybe they lock in the playoffs and take it all away. Wouldn't be super surprised. I hope not, because I don't like the Eagles. And then with the Green Bay Packers and the Bears matching up for the third time this season, I have the Packers winning because they beat Chicago when they were pretty healthy. They had already lost Tucker Kraft, and there were some other injuries as well, but they beat them in a very close game. And then the Pack on the road at Soldier Field, Packers without Jordan Love, no Micah Parsons, a lot of receivers injured, and Malik Willis throwing passes, came down to the wire, and it really came down to like two plays with the face mask that could have been a missed field goal or a turnover on downs that could have kept the Packers in the lead, and the fact that Romeo Doubs was not able to recover the onside kick. But I think this time with Jordan Love in the game and everything else, I feel like the Packers are going to do just enough to sneak by the Bears and make the Bears one and done. But I'm also kind of biased, like I said, because I'm a Packers fan. So that will make, since the number one seed always plays the worst seed, and the Packers are the seventh seed, the Packers will go up here to face the Seahawks at the Seahawks Stadium, and then LA would go on to play San Francisco, which I think they're going to win because I think Matthew Stafford is in the offense is not going to be faltered by what I think is a weak San Francisco defense, and Brock Purdy's not going to be able to keep up, and they're going to lose. I think it's going to be a very offensive-oriented game. Obviously, I'm not so delusional that I think the Packers are going to be able to beat the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are just a much better team, a much healthier team as well. I feel like they're just going to get absolutely hornswoggled by the Seahawks. That leads us to conference championship against two NFC West teams, the Seattle Seahawks and the Rams. And I think Sam Darnold, I don't think he's clutch. I think he's going to collapse like he did with the Vikings last season. I think he's just not going to be able to pull it together. Matthew Stafford, a lot more veteran quarterback. He's been in these situations before. I think he's going to lock in, be able to put together a great game. Sam Darnold's going to make mistakes. He's going to make a lot of turnovers potentially and sell his team, which will put the LA Rams into the Super Bowl. And yeah, I'll have them winning the NFC and going to the Super Bowl. For the AFC, obviously, I don't have the Steelers making it. It's kind of like the same situation with the Panthers in the NFC South. The AFC North, the worst division in the AFC this season, and they got to play a crazy defense and a team coming in with so much momentum after winning a lot of tough games at the end of the season. They're probably, like I said, the Texans are, have a lot of momentum. They have probably, in my opinion, one of, if not the best defense in the league this season. And you know what they say, defense wins championships. I feel like even with old Rodgers and everything else going on with the Steelers, they're not gonna be able to pull it together, and they're gonna lose to the Texans. And then we got Jaguars and the Bills. I can see this game going either way, but I think Trevor Lawrence is going to make a lot of mistakes in the Bills' offense, and Josh Allen is going to capitalize off those mistakes and be able to keep themselves in front. And since Trevor Lawrence has never been in the playoffs before, maybe he clutches up. I'm not expecting it. He makes a lot of mistakes. He's not a very consistent quarterback. I think the Bills are just going to go walk all over the Jaguars and upset them, moving on to the next stage. And of course, I got the Patriots beating the Chargers. Justin Herbert, he's injured. His injuries doesn't seem to be bothering him a super huge amount, at least from what I've seen him playing. But the Patriots are on a roll right now. Drake May is playing MVP caliber football, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots just absolutely destroy the Chargers and move on. That's at least what I'm assuming is going to happen. So since the Bills will be the lowest remaining seed, they'll go on to play the Broncos, while the Patriots will go on to play the Texans. I feel like Drake May and the Patriots are going to be overwhelmed by the Texans' defense, and because of that, Drake May is going to make some mistakes. C.J. Stroud, even though he might not play very well, but carried by his defense, and I can see it going either way, but I have the Texans' defense beating the Patriots' offense enough to make C.J. Stroud be able to lead his team to the conference championship. Anyway, we got the Broncos and Bills for the divisional round, which I have the Broncos winning because I think that with how good their defense have been playing, Even though I think they're a very fraudulent team, I still think they're a good team with that defense. I have Josh Allen kind of collapsing. I know even without Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, he collapses against the great defense of the Broncos, which causes him to make maybe some mistakes or be pressured. I feel like the offensive line of the Bills isn't great, and the pass rush of the Broncos is going to come in. Like I said, defense wins championships. Broncos have the better defense. I don't think Josh Allen's going to be able to put it together in the postseason once again, and the Broncos are going to move on. And then it's going to come out the two defenses and the two quarterbacks. I have more confidence in C.J. Stroud than Bo Nix, if I'm not being honest. And like I said, you need to think about like how many games that the Broncos had against bad teams that there were really close matchups, and the way that how much momentum the Texans would have going into this, even playing on the road. I still have the Texans beating the Broncos and putting themselves into the Super Bowl for the first time, and I think that would be the first 0-3 team because they started like 0-3 on the season to make the Super Bowl and make it to their first ever Super Bowl with the Texans. They will go on to face the Rams, and I think they will win pretty convincingly with that defense and will win their first Super Bowl appearance as well. So, yeah, this is my bracket that I made for the playoffs this season. 14-team bracket. Just kind of stole this image off Google and stuff, and then just put cropped images of the team's logos on here to just kind of show where I thought they were going to go. But yeah, this is what I think how the postseason is going to go this year. I'll keep this in mind as we continue on to the playoffs. The playoffs start next week. I'm super excited. I'm ready. I love some playoff football, and I'm excited to see who will end up in the Super Bowl because I feel like a lot of these teams I like, which was not the same case last season. So I'm really excited to see how the Super Bowl go or the playoffs go once again. But it is kind of sad to see the season end. And once it's over, we'll be in there like 6 or 7 months until this next season, which is such a crazy way. I was so excited for the season to start, and now I gotta wait once the season end or once the playoffs end. I'll have to wait even longer. But it was a good season. It was a crazy season. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna end the video here before I yap too much longer. Hope you guys enjoyed the video as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.